studio with me again is Father Jim Mason. Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
It was like 5 minutes ago. We just wrapped up.
That's all right.
We're recording 2 episodes at once, and we wanted to get Father Mason's vocation story because it's one that I do not know. And you've been in the diocese a while, and I'm sure there's lots of people who are like, I have no idea how he came to this.
I think I'm giving it tomorrow at the
That's right.
Holy Spirit Men's Group.
Yes, I think you are. So some people will know this before it gets on the radio. Right. So Father Mason is currently the pastor at Holy Spirit Parish in Sioux Falls and the vicar for clergy for the diocese. What does the vicar for clergy do?
Great question. I'll let you know when I figure that one out. No, it basically assists the bishop with any priests that are, would be more comfortable coming to another brother priest.
Sure.
And so things like that.
Rather than their boss.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
which the bishop is for them. So, okay, great. So we're going to learn about how you came to this. But will you first tell us a bit about your family, where you grew up?
Sure. So I was born in Philadelphia area, but we lived in New Jersey.
Okay.
5 sisters, 2 brothers. I'm number 6.
Okay.
And in about 1972, we moved to White Bear Lake, Minnesota. My dad was with an engineer with USS Steel, and the steel industry was kind of going down, and so he went with 3M and moved on to a lake on White Bear Lake, which was
Where
phenomenal.
is that in Minnesota?
Just north of St. Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, and so grew up there. I remember in 2nd grade, the 2nd grade teacher put my sister Sioux was in 4th, and I in speech impediment, and then were going to lower us a grade. And then they met my mom, and they realized we had Jersey accents. They had not experienced what a Jersey accent is, so they were able to change that, and I was able to stay in 2nd grade.
I was going to say, I hear no accent from you. I never would have guessed you
would
were
for
from
my
the
folks
East
a
Coast.
little bit,
Okay.
maybe my older sisters, but sometimes it comes out. Because I speak fast.
Yes.
There was a guy who was doing a funeral. He said, "Are you from Philly?" And I said, "Yeah, that's where." He said, "Yeah, I can tell." So there is Father Fitzpatrick, kind of a crazy story. At his ordination, I was talking to his dad. He's from Philly, and it sounds really familiar. And then I looked at his dad, and his dad said, "Well, my wife, Father Fitzpatrick's mom, dated a George Mason." I said, "That's my uncle." And then my dad came over, and they used to play basketball together.
Oh my goodness!
So both, just crazy coincidence there.
You think that only happens in South Dakota? Well,
No,
and it
right.
did happen in South Dakota, but it was someplace else.
Someplace else,
So.
yeah.
That's awesome. So you went to school in Minnesota and grew up there for the most part.
The most part, yeah. So I was, grade school, Catholic school, St. Pius X, and then Hill Murray for 2 years. And then, as sophomore year, my dad came home and said, we're either going to move to, there's a 3M plant in Brookings that he was going to run, or we were going to move to Milan, Italy. So it's pretty similar. And we ended up going with Milan, Italy, and he ran some things there. And
Did you really? I thought you were going to tell me you came to Brookings instead of Milan. I was like, my gosh.
No, we were Milan. And so my junior year in the American School in Milan, my senior year at Notre Dame International, which it was a boarding school, Catholic boarding school. And, my high school graduation was at the North American College at the seminary. And so, and no one would say, like, in 12 years, that's the one that's going to be back here studying for the priesthood. That was not.
They were like, don't even look at that guy.
Right. That was not. So then I went to Villanova for a year, and then St. Thomas, and graduated from St. Thomas, and then University of Minnesota Law School, and on the vocation side of it, in college I had my freshman year kind of a type of conversion experience to Christ. Just a friend had gone evangelical, and he'd give me a book, More Than a Carpenter, and I was by myself reading it, kind of searching, still doing stuff that a young man would be living that kind of party life and all of that kind of stuff, but then just saying, is Jesus real? And I just experienced that depth, but not connecting it so much to my Catholic faith. But it was interesting that spring break at Villanova, I would have gone to Daytona if I had the money. I didn't, but I lived in a homeless shelter with Franciscans. And I just started there, and then when I went to St. Thomas, St. Paul's Outreach, got connected with that group of really, young men and women that were authentically living their Catholic faith.
Right.
So at that time, too, I decided that if I was going to live this faith, I should know it. So I read the Bible and catechism, both, and just started to understand and see the truth in it.
Right. So you were Catholic.
Yeah.
You grew up Catholic.
Yeah, definitely. Sunday, everything, all of that, in Catholic schools and, but I wouldn't have been the best practicing Catholic, but yeah,
like most of us at that time.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was. I had an idea of faith, but it was more just an idea that if there was a firing squad, I would say I believe in Jesus. But if you had looked at my life, it probably wouldn't have reflected that.
Right.
So that connecting my life to that reality.
So you went to school to be a lawyer.
Well, yeah, I started, I was a poli-sci history major, and then I worked after graduation at a law firm before law school. And then I went to Juarez and El Paso and did mission work. And all through college, I was dating a woman that everyone thought we would marry, and she was a great Catholic woman. But there was just something at that time in my heart of hearts that I was not supposed to. I was supposed to do something else, and it was the call. I remember at one point we were in a summer, in Grand Avenue in St. Paul, summer block party thing, and there was a tent revival, and I was sitting by myself, and this, either Baptist or Pentecostal preacher came up to me, and he said, he didn't say it aloud, he just said it to me. He said, "You're called to the royal priesthood." And then he kind of walked away, and my girlfriend came over and said, "What did he say?" And I said, "Nothing," because I was just like, "What? That's crazy." He didn't know I was Catholic, and
right. And he wasn't Catholic.
And he wasn't Catholic.
That's always
so crazy. It was there, but it was just so not on the radar. And so, I was confused. So when you're confused, most people then go to law school. So that's what I did. I went to University of Minnesota Law School.
I didn't know you were this funny.
Yeah. And then there, I reflected on my time with the Jesuit priest in Juarez and pursued the priesthood. But they didn't give me the best advice because I was also dating another gal, and it's like, continue that. Well, that's not really compatible with.
Right.
So, but and upon graduation, I'd been accepted in the Jesuits, and I was, really importantly too, I was renting the basement from Bishop Carlson.
Oh, okay.
So he'd have grad students where you would do the snow shoveling, cut the yard, take care of the yard, take care of the dogs. He had 2 dogs for cheap rent, and we'd have mass, morning prayer, mass every morning. And so I was living there, and upon graduation of law school, it became really clear that I wasn't supposed to enter, and I didn't know why. And so
it
I
had
didn't.
to be very confusing.
It was. There was a part of me that was saying, okay, it's God's time, not my time. And then, just providentially, because I'd missed all the interviews, so I needed to find a job. And this Judge Ann Simonette, she was newly appointed. She had her master's in piano, and then she went to Harvard Law, and just brilliant jurist. And she hired me to be her law clerk, which was, an excellent experience. And once again, started dating another Catholic woman. And these are all, for a year and a half. And then after clerking, I was offered a job to be a prosecutor at St. Louis Park, and also did defense work. And so all the while thinking that's going to be the answer, that the jobs, that wasn't. So then Bishop Carlson said, "Would you come down to Sioux Falls and be director of Catholic Charities, legal counsel, and lobbyist for the church?"
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I made that move and ended that relationship and just thought, okay, I'll be in South Dakota. I was 28. Doing what I would think was very fulfilling work,
right?
Up in Pierre and all these things, but it just didn't go away. And so it got to a point where there was a Jesuit, Father Joe Sheehan, a really holy Jesuit, and Bishop Carlson wanted me to go to direction, and I knew he would read my soul like a cheap novel. So I went to a very intelligent priest, and we talked about intellectual matters. And
I was going to say, you avoided that, didn't you?
I did. I was not ready. And then, I was starting another relationship, and I just realized this is not fair. This is not right. And I need to go in the seminary.
Right.
And so I went to a blind Jesuit, Father Larry Gillick, literally blind, not, blind another way.
Right,
but
right.
He was very holy. And he, after 3 days, he said, you're called into the seminary, but you can't get ordained until you find joy. Because I didn't want to surrender a wife or family or all of that.
Right.
It was just. So I went to the North American College, and it was about 2 years into it. And, I would pray, and I'd often get this image of a sword battle, but like a Braveheart battle. And that's, our family's kind of wired that way. We're kind of fighters and that kind of stuff. So I kind of enjoyed that. And then finally I was just so tired. And I was just so tired that in the image I was in a small chapel by myself, and I heard like the clanking of the sword as I dropped it, and I just had this phenomenal peace.
Oh, wow.
And it was funny because I was fighting God.
Right.
And I didn't realize that.
Is that Job who's fighting God?
Yeah, just fighting God.
Yeah.
And I just well, Job too, that's the fear of the Lord when he puts his hand over his mouth and he shuts up, Gabriel, So so that began then just this acceptance, and it really, was a wonderful gift then to fully enter formation.
Yeah, that's really an amazing story. So you were really older.
I was 30. So I was 34 when I was ordained, but I was 30 when I entered.
Okay. And you had already gone to school, so then it doesn't take as long because you just have to do the theology parts?
We wouldn't do this today, but I did theology in the morning and philosophy in the afternoon, and then some Greek and Latin too on the side. So that's not going to be done today.
Overachiever.
No, maybe just like get it done. Yeah.
You're like, I'm too old to wait around. I got to do this thing.
Right. So it was not the wisest path. But those years living with Bishop Carlson were years of formation.
Sure. Sure.
Right.
So you had known Bishop Carlson in Minnesota.
Right.
Because he came from there, right?
Right. So my both of my roommates, one was engineer and the other was a nursing major. They were They were moving on. So I needed, and then some people I'd not met him, and I went over and met him and said, "Oh, this will work out fine for my last year of law school."
Right.
And we became very good friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I never got to meet Bishop Carlson, so maybe I will at some point.
He was here about 2 weeks ago for the Carmelites 25th.
I know. He's been around the diocese, but he has not been in the building, so I haven't gotten to meet him yet. So, okay. So was there, you actually said there was some fear and hesitation.
Oh, yeah.
What did your family think?
On the first time around, one of my dad's best friend was a priest and a very good priest, but probably struggled with some loneliness. And so with the Jesuit side of it, and my parents were always supportive because they have 8 kids. They have 25 grandchildren. But they always saw me as I'm the uncle that loves playing with the kids, that loves this family.
Right.
So they were supportive, but a little hesitant. And then they met Bishop Carlson, and he came on family vacations with us, and he would be over, and they saw the joy that he really had.
Right.
And so then it really became the biggest supporters because of that joy.
Yeah, that's good.
And then knowing that it's about fulfillment.
Right. If you just joined us, we are talking to Father Jim Mason about his call to the priesthood. Okay, so is there anything what year were you ordained?
2001.
Okay, so it's been a while, but it hasn't been that long. Is there anything that stands out? I mean, it hasn't been like you were ordained in the 70s or something.
No, right.
Is there anything that stands out from your ordination?
Wow. Yeah, so this was good. It was hot. There was no air conditioning in the cathedral, and it was hot, and there were 6 of us, and I was beginning to faint, and I was going down, down, and Bishop Carlson noticed it, and Father Tom Ryan, who's not a subtle MC and kind of a large priest, and they just picked me up, they put me on a chair, and they gave me water, but they continued. It was all during the lay of the hands, so nothing stopped, and then, I was getting ordained whether I was conscious or not, and so he was, so I finally had water, and, and I recovered, so.
Wow, I have not seen that because, of course, in communications, we do the recording, and I haven't seen anybody go down yet. So I might have to go back and see if we have that somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know if we would.
We probably don't. Mm-hmm. Darn. Okay. What has been your favorite part of being a priest?
I mean, it's always going to be the sacraments, particularly the Eucharist and confession, because they're the greatest privilege.
Right.
And then obviously the how people invite you into, their depths, and to be Christ within that. It's humbling, but that to know that He works in that and see that, that our call is to bring Christ and no one else.
Right.
And so even in my fallenness, that's an understanding that even in my fallenness, He still works through that. So I can say, Lord, make up for where I lack, or Lord, redeem. But that's a great gift. Yeah.
Did you find it difficult to adjust to priesthood once you were ordained?
Yeah, because in the seminary it's not the priesthood, and so you've got everything there as far as camaraderie, schedule, everything, and so you really do have to learn how to schedule yourself. And an odd thing at the North American College, like on Sunday masses, we're at like 11 a.m. All right, that's not your typical Sunday for a priest. Just FYI, you're not going out on Saturday night. Typical thing. So. That, and then even understanding like your day off, you learn, I need to plan for that. I need to be able to call, a buddy up and have some plans. And for the first number of years, my sister Trish and her husband Tom, they moved to Sioux Falls when I was ordained, and they had 4 kids, and and here, and so that was awesome, because but then when they left, I had to realize, okay, I need a healthy routine, and sometimes it's maybe like around 8 o'clock. Walking my dog Gemma and praying a rosary, making a phone call, just understanding, because most of your life is fairly honestly busy, but then there can be about till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And Father King and I had a great relationship where we'd put on sport that he wouldn't understand, but we would just talk, right? And there was always that, and we do that with Father Zach when we can.
Yeah, good. What's been the most challenging?
There's people, but that's in anything.
What?
That's not. And, there's people, and there's my own fallenness. So that's I call it living in the tension.
Sure.
So what that is the way things supposed to be versus the way they are.
Right.
And I have to be able to freely live in that, just as Jesus did. Particularly on the cross, and to love in that. So to live in that tension, like especially because you desire the good for maybe this couple, but they're nowhere near that.
Right.
And then to be able to hold on to the standards, speaking the truth in love.
Yeah.
And saying, listen, I know you want to do this, or say, but like Cardinal George said it well. He said, hey, all are welcome, but not on your terms.
Right.
So you can come into my house, but don't move the furniture around.
Right.
And we have our teachings, and they're from Jesus.
Right.
And you might not like them or appreciate them. God bless you. But this is who we are, whether
Right.
it's a parish or a school.
Right. I've heard you talk about that, living in the tension, and I can't remember where it was because you haven't been at Holy Spirit that long, and I don't think you've mentioned that yet. But can you speak a little bit more about that, like for the regular person? Like,
Well,
how do we do that?
Right. So, I mean, for the regular person, because everyone has that, there's a great marriage preparation phrase I use, which is, I say the two couple that were there, and I say, unrealistic expectations is premeditated resentment.
Oh,
Unrealistic expectations is premeditated resentment. Well, she should really know this. Why isn't he doing that?
Right.
And if you took a step back, because he's a knucklehead and he's not, and that hasn't changed, and
Right.
or this or that.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you're a minimalist, but you live in an awareness, and so that tension of my own expectations of others and of God, and then being able to say, okay, but that's not taking into account my own sinfulness, the world's sinfulness, and I have to learn how to pray in that.
Right.
It's Gethsemane. Father, let this cup pass from my lips, but not my will, your will be done. And it's usually personnel issues, it's human, it's always, some type of thing. But have I prayed and have I invited Jesus into it?
Right.
Because Jesus was not like a doormat. That is not,
No.
and he was not like Malibu Jesus, like peace,
Or-
love, and whatever.
or
Yeah,
a teddy bear Jesus,
or teddy bear
as-
Jesus, or
yeah, Bergwald says.
he constantly was saying hard things with love,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the one that people don't want to hear that,
Right.
and yet that's Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So on to a little more fun thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any interesting hobbies?
Wow, that was a question. Maybe not. I don't know in the
You're gonna
sense
say,
that
nope.
Yeah, I mean, I like to read. I like to, I run. I've ruptured both my Achilles, so I've limited,
Jeez.
Some sports and stuff because if something's worth doing, it's worth overdoing in my family. And so, but I'm praying about getting a dog again. This is my first year of priesthood without a dog.
Oh, really?
And so, and so I've had 3, and but I, what that looks like, I don't know yet. So, yeah, I loved running with my dog.
Yeah.
And, we had that path at Broomtree. Well, I built a path like that at the seminary. It was about 1.8 miles with tall grass. We had 45 acres.
Mm-hmm.
So just those types of things I really enjoyed.
When you say built a path, is this like you mowed it?
They mowed it, yeah. I mean, the company wanted to charge like $45,000, and I just said, no, I think we can just mow a path.
We can just mow a path.
And
It'll
we did
be all fine.
Right, and it was fine. And actually, the neighborhood used it. It's like a dog
sure.
park,
Yeah.
which is fine. I was fine with that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know Father Morgan used to have a dog at
He
Holy
did.
Spirit, so I think you can probably do it.
No, my second dog, Bella, she was an alpha female, and Rudy used to get out of his car when he came to Broomtree. He would lay down on himself and pee on himself, and Bella would just she ruled the roost. She was so.
Rudy was
it's an
Father Morgan's
embarrassing story.
dog.
Yeah. No, that was his
Wasn't it?
associate.
His
I'm just kidding.
Well, that's probably true too.
You're gonna have to edit this, aren't you?
Probably. Sorry, Father
Yeah.
Morgan. That's all Father Mason. I did not do that. Okay, so if a young man came to you and said, I'm maybe thinking about going to seminary, or I would think I may be getting called to priesthood, what would you tell him?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it begins is, okay, let's talk about what you're experiencing in prayer, talk about the sense, and then let's go visit, because you have to discern in reality.
Right.
And so then I have an experience of, oh, this is what it's like. Otherwise, it's just, kind of an unfiltered imagination, which is fine. But you want to see what's that like. So you want to visit the seminary,
Right.
And then talk to seminarians, and then what does my prayer life look like?
Mm-hmm.
Before you enter the Marines, you should be able to do at least 20 push-ups, maybe. So you want to have some
Yeah.
sense, and then not be intimidated when you go and you realize, oh, it's a real structured. It is, but all those guys, it can be a little bit of a rocky start as you get used to it, but it's really good. And I think many of the young are seeking that
Yeah.
purpose and meaning and some
Yes.
discipline, and so that type of thing. And then stop discerning when you get in.
Oh,
For at least a year or two, just let yourself enter into it, because these guys are looking over their shoulder constantly. Am I called? Am I called? Well, you can't discern in that. Like, boy, if you met a girl and you're like from day one, or am I going to marry her? Am I going to marry her? Am I going to marry her? That's crazy.
you'd be, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
you'd be
you'd
a
drive
mess.
crazy. You'd be
Yeah.
a mess. So just chill out, discipline life, and then pray and let the Lord lead you in it.
Right.
Because
Right.
it's going to be, if He calls you out, it's for something,
Right.
not against.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
How can we in the diocese, especially the lay people, those in your parish, those who know you, how can we help you be the best priest you can be?
Yeah. First and foremost, to pray for me, pray for our priest. I had the really super honor of giving the homily at Father Ken Bain's funeral mass, and he was such a holy priest, and he suffered physically a ton, and he was offering that for priests. So praying for your priests, having an understanding of their humanity, but also calling them to more in a good, healthy way,
right?
In particular, in the spiritual life.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point, because I think a lot of times, we were probably put here to challenge priests to a degree.
Well, just as your children and in your life and your family life, that's not obstacles. That's how we love, and it's not easy.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Father Mason, for coming in and telling us your story. I really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to more years of you being back in the diocese.
Thanks. Great to be here. Thanks, Renee.
You bet. Thank you. All right. You can always find us at our website at sfcatholic.org if you need to check on anything for the diocese, mass times, what's going on in the area. That's it for us today. Hope you'll join us again next week for more Catholic Views.